Beta Upsilon Chi presents Man to Men, the premier audio journal for men who live faithfully and lead courageously. I'm Jared Musgrove, bringing you an installment in our occasional series, Collegiate Leaders. These are conversations with college men who live faithfully and lead courageously on major campuses across the country. And today, we welcome Jonathan Campbell from Kennesaw State University there in Georgia. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, since we got a little bit of time to meet, and I got to see you in action at one of our Bucks leadership events just earlier this year, and I remember thinking, this is a man I want more of our man-to-men listeners to hear from. So I'm grateful that you joined us. For the guys listening in, and I always start this way with our collegiate leaders, just kind of give us what I call the LinkedIn stats, Jonathan, your background, your major area of study, why Kennesaw State University?
Yeah, so I'm a junior at Kennesaw State. I'm studying marketing right now, but honestly, just full transparency, it's kind of late in college, but I'm thinking through some big changes in career choices, but I won't get into that too heavily. I grew up my whole life a big UGA fan, big Georgia fan, because both my parents went there, and I just loved UGA football growing up.
Yeah, you're kind of surrounded by it.
Oh, yeah. Even my brother, he just graduated from there. But my whole life, my biggest goal in school was honestly to get into UGA and go there, just because it felt like that was what I was shooting for the entire time, especially in high school, because I was trying really, really hard. And then it got down to my biggest three options for college were UGA if I got in. KSU was kind of the hometown. I literally lived like 15 or 20 minutes from KSU. And then my other option was Barry. I went and I toured Barry, and it's awesome, but it's a private university, so it's a little expensive. So to my surprise, I really, really thought I was going to get into UGA. I didn't. And even after I got waitlisted, I didn't get in. And honestly, at first, I was really, really disappointed because that was kind of my goal the entire time. And I felt like I honestly should have got in. And so when I kind of realized that KSU was where I was going to end up, I was pretty disappointed, and I didn't really know what it was going to be like. But honestly, like looking back, I really do think that was a God thing that I didn't get into UGA. Because if I had gotten into UGA, I would have gone. And I think I'm at KSU for a reason.
Do you mind sharing some of those reasons, just as you're looking back on your career now? Remind me, I think you're a junior. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So you've got a little bit of perspective there. How have you seen God move since you've been at Kennesaw State? Yeah,
I mean, I think my life has even changed so much while I've been at Kennesaw State. I mean, one of the biggest things that's been nice about going to Kennesaw State is, like I said, I'm pretty close. So I've lived at home literally all of my college. I'm actually about to move out in a few weeks, which is crazy now, but saves a lot of money. And it's been weird though, because all of my friends from high school, for the most part, moved away. But I met a few people right at the end of high school that kind of became my close friends, and they go to KSU. And I think I got a good opportunity to get plugged in at local churches and ministries and stuff at the beginning of college. And things have changed a lot since then. I'm at a church now that is completely different, and I had no idea it didn't exist at the beginning of college. But I think going into like how I felt okay about going to KSU, I heard about Bucks, and that was actually kind of one of the biggest reasons that I ended up excited to go to KSU, because in my mind, I'm like, KSU is kind of like, especially at my high school, it's kind of seen as, it's like the hometown school. It's almost feels like a community college in some ways. It's definitely not, but that was kind of the perception that people had of it. But when I heard it, I was kind of like, it's going to suck. I'm going to have nothing to do, blah, blah, blah. But then I heard about Bucks from a guy who's in Bucks. He shared it with me and some other seniors at this Bible study one time. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. And so that kind of made me actually excited to go to KSU.
Well, man, and I want to hear a little bit more of the Bucks experience as we kind of get to the second half of the interview. But just if you had to share with the guys, and you got the opportunity to, just share with them what it's like being a Christ follower at KSU. What are some of the challenges and unexpected joys, and what are signs of hope that you see on your campus as far as Christianity and also just the movement of Christ through students.
Yeah, I'm actually really, really excited to talk about this one because even the last year has been super cool. So it's a very dark campus. There's over 50,000 people on the campus. Yeah, it's gotten massive. And there are a lot of churches and college ministries around, but even just being on the campus and being around people, you can tell that it's just a very lost campus. It's pretty dark. And like I said, there are a lot of ministries, a lot of churches around, but it's still a somewhat small percentage of the overall population. And when I got to college, I started going to my old church's college ministry, and then later on transitioned into one of the bigger ministries called Wave. And that was kind of where I found, this is where a lot of Bucks guys went. And so that was kind of like one of my biggest ministries that I enjoyed going to. But even the last year, it's been crazy. So my church, local church, we're a church plant that's about 2 years old. I've been going for almost 2 years now. And the pastor, Mitch Rumpet, he's a dog. And he, big revival guy. And so me and a group of about 3 other college guys started going summer of 24. And we just got all fired up. And Pastor Mitch, he started discipling us like as a group. He calls us his young guns. And from the very start, it was like, okay, how can we impact Kennesaw State University for Christ? And we then start this thing called Pillars. Now, Pillars was originally called like Missional Accelerator, but the idea behind it was, how can we get all the like student leaders of every single ministry in church that is at Kennesaw State and get them to unite so that we can actually impact the campus and not be like competing. And so we started meeting with all these different leaders and everything, and everybody's so passionate. Everybody's just like on fire. And then last year in April, we had our first like event, and it was a unity worship gathering. And we had it on campus at the gazebo. And I don't know how many people there were exactly, but we had like 20 or so ministries coming together to put this on. And Bucks kind of was the glue that kind of brought it all together. Our chaplain at the time, Cooper, was doing a ton in terms of like organizing it and getting the different ministries together. And so we didn't want it to be Bucks was like hosting it necessarily, but we were helping put it together. And that was insane. Then in August, we did the same thing, and we had a huge crowd for that. And like, we just saw God move like in incredible ways. And then it just kept going. So the ministry I mentioned earlier, Wave, they have a huge event every fall called See You at Arc. And it's at like a really big amphitheater on campus. So you had that, and there was some unity movements that are part of that. Then, I don't know if you're familiar with it's a band, but it's like a missionary movement called Every Heart. And they've got a band called Like I Love. Yeah. So they came in October of this last year, and there was a lot of people for that gathering. I just feel like this past year, well, before I even move on, literally last week on Friday, we had another unity worship gathering. And our chaplain right now, Fisher, he went so hard organizing that and trying to live up to last year. And I know it was really hard on him, but it was a little smaller, but genuinely, like we had 2 altar calls, one for people giving their life to Christ for the first time and one for kind of rededications. And we saw a ton of people come up, and it was just so powerful. And it just feels like there's so much momentum. There's so much that can happen. And we just got to keep the momentum going on our campus.
Incredible. No, I've gotten to see some of the pictures and the videos from these events that you guys have been a part of, and it's pretty stunning. It's super encouraging.
Man to Men is made possible in part by our partners at Southern Seminary. Guys, if you're sensing a call to ministry, you already know that's a serious calling. The question is how you'll respond with faithfulness. That's why Southern Seminary has created a resource to help you think through your next steps. At sbts.edu/called, You'll find biblical wisdom for discerning your calling and encouragement for following God's direction. And when you're ready to prepare, Southern Seminary is here with the Master of Divinity, the trusted degree designed to ground you in God's Word and equip you for a lifetime of ministry. So, if God's stirring in your heart for gospel service, take the first step. Visit sbts.edu/called and begin preparing to answer His call with faithfulness.
You're a man of faith, Jonathan. You lead Men of Faith as president there at Bucks at KSU. I'd love to hear some of your background, man, or just for you to share with the guys listening in. What is some of your story in a nutshell? What has it been like for you walking with Jesus?
Yeah. So, like a lot of people say, I grew up in a Christian house, parents both Christian, everything, and I quote unquote gave my life to Christ when I was 10 years old, and I got baptized. But I don't barely remember it, honestly, and I don't think I really understood, a lot of what I was doing. I think a lot of it was just to be like, oh, I want to get baptized. And then this is where things changed pretty drastically. But literally a year later after I was baptized, I like telling this part of the story because it's funny. I'm about to go outside. It's 2 weeks before I start middle school. I'm about to go outside to play Pokemon Go with my friends. And I just collapse. I just fall on the ground and my left side stops working. I had no idea what was going on. My brother, my mom were right there, and I literally had a friend at the doorstep waiting for me to come outside and play. My whole left side goes limp. Moments later, I'm unconscious, and then that night, I'm in the hospital for 2 emergency brain surgeries. And the surgeon literally told my mom that he didn't think I was going to make it. I had an AVM, which is an arteriovenous malformation, which is tangled blood vessels in your brain, and it ruptured, causing a brain bleed, which then caused a stroke. So my left side was entirely paralyzed. So it was a very long process after that, even getting to the point to where I could be functional at all. I was in the hospital for 2 months. And then even after that, I was in day rehab, which is basically, I like to call it a 9 to 5 of like therapy. I did that for like 8 weeks, and I was doing hospital homebound. I wasn't going to school. So yeah, my life changed pretty quickly. And in that process, at times I remember trying to be like, oh, I'm so strong. Like I'm leaning on God. And this time we would listen to worship music and everything like that. But I also remember specific times where I was just like angry at God. I was like, God, how could this happen? How could you allow this? Sports were a huge part of my life before my stroke. And I had the realization I would never be able to play like competitive sports again. And that hit me pretty hard. So it was a very, very long process, recovering. By the time I got to high school, I would say semi-normal. Like I could do almost everything that a normal person could do. I just couldn't use my left hand, and I walk with a little bit of a limp. But throughout that whole process, I think we still went to church decently consistently. I just went with my family, but I stopped going to youth group because I think I was just too self-conscious, and I felt like I didn't know anybody anymore. And so any bit of like church community I had was gone. I didn't have any. And at the time, I didn't have many friends because a lot of them just moved on from me when I couldn't do the same things that they could. And it was hard. It was very difficult. So then high school, I get to the point to where I'm just like lost. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm not happy. I don't know where I'm meant to be. It was the summer before my senior year, and I'm sitting down with my parents, and I think I just cried. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And my mom, she told me, she's like, you need to go back to church. You need to find community. And I was terrified, but I did. I went back. I started going to youth group again for the first time since elementary school. And I was about to be a senior in high school. And it was terrifying at first, but pretty quickly, I realized, okay, these are my people. But then I started living this almost double life for my senior year, where I had my church community, and that was awesome. They were impacting me a ton. But then I also started hanging out with some people in high school, like some of my newer friends, or same friends, but they were actually asking me to hang out now. But I realized that they were doing some things that weren't necessarily the best. And then through some crazy events with them, I stopped talking to them, and I go all in with church community. And I realize, wow, this is amazing. And even more than anything my stroke did, I think it was the community that I found, and the people that I realized were really walking with Jesus that impacted my life. And that's when I went all in with Jesus.
This is some of what I was hoping we would get to today, because you're a man, a courageous man with an incredible story. And I think you're a significant leader. Obviously, your peers think so, to elect you president at your Bucks chapter. How do you find yourself growing in Christ right now, Jonathan, just as a leader and as a follower of Jesus?
Yeah. I think the last year has actually been pretty difficult, because there's been a lot of times in my life where I've been super, super, super on fire, and then crazy about following Jesus. And then I think sometimes you almost come back down to earth, where it's you start living normal life and everything, and things aren't quite as fun or crazy anymore. And it's whoa, this is just kind of hard. It doesn't feel as exciting. I think in a lot of ways, I'm having to learn how to really follow Jesus in the everyday kind of boring life where nothing too crazy is going on. And then also, I would say, in terms of Bucks leadership, I've had to learn how to just love people well, really well, because last year I was secretary. It was my first year as an officer. And I remember being so passionate about Bucks, and Bucks was everything that I thought of. And I was everybody else should think this way. Everybody else should be taking Bucks this seriously. And it was crazy.
Well, no, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, I'm a quarter century in, and I still love it. So.
Yeah. And then I get to start my presidency, and I'm trying to go all in. I'm trying to go feel the same way. I'm so passionate in some of the ways that I was interacting with some of the brothers, and even some of the ways that my other officers were interacting with some of the guys was so passionate and lacking some grace. And I feel I've just learned that as much as I love Bucks, as much as I want everything to go perfect, especially because we're trying to charter as a colony right now, the truth is these guys have normal lives, and your average brother, as much as we want them to, isn't thinking about Bucks as much as we want them to. And I think it's just made me realize that in a lot of ways, I need to be taking life a little less seriously and just have fun. I mean, honestly, that's one of the biggest things I'm having to learn in being president is I don't want to forsake my experience as a brother and my experience just in life to be so stressed, to be so anxious all the time about making sure that everything is going perfect.
Yeah. What's fun for you, man?
I mean, I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is golf. I know it's kind of crazy because I said I can't use my left hand, but for a while I've been practicing on one-handed golf swing, and I like to think that it's pretty decent. It's fun when I'm hitting good, of course. When I'm not, it's not that fun.
I think anyone can relate to that one.
Yeah. Also, I love going to the gym, just hanging out with friends or watching sports or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are your teams? Who you follow? What sports? What teams?
Everything Atlanta.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's sad to say that right after the Hawks just got destroyed not so long ago.
Oh, yeah.
But the Braves are doing good. I am still a UGA fan, even though I didn't go to UGA. And Falcons. So
love it.
Braves are good. Falcons hopefully are getting better. Hawks, disappointment. And then UGA is always pretty good.
Got it. Yeah, love it. Hometown teams. Yeah. It usually is a mix of quality when you've got a few professional and college teams all together like that. It rarely is everybody clicking on all cylinders. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bro, you mentioned some of the guys in your chapter, and it just community has been a theme that you've brought up as we've been talking here. I know that's important to you. Would you mind just celebrating some of those men right now? Who are the men in your life who you most admire, that you look up to, that you hang out with the most, that you connect with? Who are those guys, and why them?
I mean, I even think right now, and this is just because the time and day that it is right now. I mentioned earlier the young guns I was talking about.
Yeah.
I think right now they're meeting without me. I had to miss their meeting.
Oh man. Okay.
But it's worth it. So
use this podcast when it posts as your hall pass.
Right. Exactly. So my pastor, Mitch Rumpay, he's awesome. I really do. Obviously, I see him as my pastor, but in a lot of ways, I also see him as my friend and an older brother. And like, I'd never had that before. And I think it's such a blessing. And then some of the other guys in that group, like Fisher, our chaplain, he's amazing. And then Sam, if he ever listens to this, and then Cooper, our former chaplain, he's about to be my roommate, actually. I mean, he's one of the closest guys in my life, and I've been walking with him for so long now, which is just crazy. But I mean, I think Bucks has drawn me so close to like so many guys in the chapter. And I even want to tell a story that like I meant to get into earlier. Like I remember, so this was kind of crazy. So my second day of college, I break my hip. It was a crazy story. I won't get into how, but I couldn't walk for 6 weeks. And that was in the middle of rush and pledgeship. And I think I've always told this story when I talk about Bucks. We had a pledge event, and I had a guy that I had never met before in the fraternity coming to pick me up from my house to take me to the event. And I think that's when I kind of realized, I was like, holy crap, what did I just get myself into? This is amazing. And there's so many guys that I even just love hanging out with in Bucks that like have had such an impact on me. Like even my cell group, like my cell group is the only guys left from my pledge class from fall of 23. And it's like our relationship will always be unique because of that.
Man, I love that. Well, so looking at this next, 18 months or so, finishing up college, the Lord leading the way, who and where do you hope to be 5 years from now, Jonathan?
Yeah. I think that's a lot of what I'm having to think about right now, honestly.
Isn't it though? Yeah.
Yeah. I think knowing that I'm about to start my senior year, I mean, I just finished up my junior year. It's been a lot of, okay, wow, this stuff's getting real. But like I mentioned earlier, I'm considering some decently big career changes. And so hopefully get that figured out soon, what I'm actually going to do. But I definitely want to be still anchored in a church that I have a leadership position in, or I at least volunteer at, and ideally still have a lot of community, because I think that's something that can be hard for a lot of people post-college, is like maintaining that community. And it'll be a interesting transition, transitioning out of Bucks as a graduate and going to alum, because that's naturally most of my community now. So I would say definitely having good community still. Like I mentioned, I don't really know exactly what I'm still doing for a career as of now, but in 5 years, I sure hope I have that figured out.
Amen. Yeah.
And then ideally, I got nothing right now, but ideally in 5 years, I'll be getting close to getting married at least.
It's good.
Because having a family is definitely one of my biggest desires.
I love that. I did hear several prayer requests in there. You've got, a lot of your brothers listening in right now. Some of them are just meeting you for the first time. As we're listening, Jonathan, what are ways that we can be praying for you specifically? I heard career, finishing up that senior year. What are some other things that are on your mind that we can be praying for? Yeah,
I mean, I think those are the obvious ones, but burnout is a big one sometimes. I'm trying to fight hard. Beginning of the semester was really, really hard as president. But I think I'm in a much better place to go into the summer and then launch the fall excited and ready to finish strong. And then, yeah, I mean, I think really, there's like right now, this next year, and then there's like beyond that. And so I feel like I just need to survive this year, survive the rest of college. And then it's like, what comes next? What am I going to be doing? Who are the people I'm going to meet? What's my community going to be? And stuff like that.
Well, we're lifting you up by name right now, Jonathan Campbell. And I will say, I have not experienced you as just a survivor. I do think you're a courageous leader. That's what I've heard every time we've been together, and that's what I heard again today. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Man to Men is powered by Beta Upsilon Chi, commonly referred to as Bucks. As you heard today, everywhere, every day, Bucks men are raising families, leading in organizations, and strengthening families to impact our communities for Christ. You can find out more about Beta Upsilon Chi by transliterating our Greek letters and adding a .org. That's byx.org. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe. Consider giving to our work with college men across the country by following the individual partner links in the show notes. We're produced, rather well I might add, by the good gentlemen of the Good Podcast Company. For Beta Upsilon Chi, I'm Dr. Jared Musgrove with Man to Men.